everyone. Welcome back to So Who Are You Really? Real Life Spirituality. My name is Chris Lanning, and I am honored to have the host, Jody Lemieux and Bryan Winston. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Awesome. So today, or this episode, we're going to talk about self-talk. So what is self-talk, Bryan? I'm going to start with you. Can you define the self-talk that we always hear about?
Yeah, there's a dialogue or a monologue maybe that we're having. I think it's a dialogue with ourselves. It's the conversation, the ongoing conversation we have with ourselves that we may or may not give voice to, as to give audible vibration to. That's what I think of as self-talk, and it could be either conscious and intentional, or unconscious and habitual as well. That's my definition of self-talk.
Great definition, Bryan. Self-talk is the inner conversation we're having with ourselves. And I like how you defined it with habitual or conscious. There are ways for us to be conscious of our inner dialogue and direct it, or you can also be in the other side of it and just following it and allowing the inner conversation to continue in a habitual way.
Now that's interesting, because I was thinking as Bryan was talking, in terms of hearing the voices in our head, going back to what we talked about a couple of episodes ago, but where you do have constantly playing your head, oh, I should do this, or was that person mean that, did they mean this? Or, what happens if I do this? Am I running out of you've got all that. Or there's also where you're saying you're being critical of yourself, or like, oh, I don't have the ability to do this. I can't do this. This is just driving me nuts. But when you were mentioning, Jody, as you were talking, I started thinking, oh, yeah, what about the subconscious? Like we have that, value judgment of ourselves. Maybe we're not literally saying, you're too stupid to do this, but we may feel that, or you're not worthy to be talking to these people. It may not be saying you're not worthy in your head, but you're subconsciously feeling that way as you approach people. So I don't even know where to take it from here, but is that did I get that understanding correct from you on that it's both conscious and subconscious?
Yeah, and that's when I'm hearing you talk, Chris, I think that's the value in coaching and talk therapy, is that you have a chance to bring to light what's going on internally. I know I've been in coaching sessions before where I share something that I never really had thought it before. I had experienced it internally, but I never shared it. And once I shared it, it got very clear to me. Whereas before it wasn't clear. So having someone ask questions and just really listen and give me space to be able to just share what's going on internally brings things to the surface. And I think that's the value in talk therapy and in coaching.
Because we have all that going on in our head, it's the same message playing over and over. But again, like you said, talking with talk therapy, someone can say, help me understand that a little bit better, and ask questions about it. And that basically reframes the talk and makes you see it in a different light. That's the benefit we're talking about, correct?
Different light. I like that idea. Seeing it in a different light, or seeing it in light at all, is helpful.
I love to bring in one of our favorite authors and books, Dr. David Hawkins, in the book Letting Go. In this book that Bryan and I enjoy talking about and reading, David Hawkins talks about the inner conversation that's going on, to be an observer of this inner conversation, because the power behind being the observer of it allows you to become conscious of the inner conversation, the habitual inner conversation that's going on. And Chris, you're talking about it. You're talking about the conscious versus the subconscious. And when we become an observer of our thinking, that's when you can change it. And it's really the feeling behind the conversation, as you brought into the conversation, Chris, about worthiness or unworthiness. It's really the feelings behind the language, the inner conversation, the self-talk, rather than the language itself. It's the vibration of the feeling.
Now, see, I got to go back at her on this because she is the queen of the language matters. Now you're telling me it's really the feelings, not the language, but yet you suggest to people to change the language to change the feelings.
Okay, you have it in reverse. You have it in reverse. The language is what you're hearing. We are feeling the feeling as it's coming through as you're speaking the language. So the feeling is the key. Feeling is the mechanism for change. Your language will change when your feelings change. Your feelings change first. It's, are you aware of the language coming through?
Okay, so then why are you constantly telling me to change my language?
Because I'm guiding you to become aware of the feeling that's coming through your language. And so when you slow your language down, you have the awareness of the feeling behind the language. So when you reframe your language, you're feeling the feelings.
Okay. So if you're stopping and reframing that, then you're stopping and realizing what you were actually expressing of those feelings and being able to look at that and decide, oh, maybe I need to change my feelings on that.
And you use the word realize, and the word realize is to see with real eyes. So it's really reframing your language through your feelings.
Follow that, Bryan.
I think we've had enough for today. I think that's the end of I think we're done with this episode. Realize. Whew. Wow, that's. Did you come up with that, Jody?
I've heard it, and so yes.
Man, that's good. Can you say that again? Because I think I messed it up. I think in the middle of it, I was already like, I was already cheering when you in the middle. So can you say that again, please?
The word realize is to see with real eyes. When you're realizing an experience, you're becoming you're in a state of awareness of yourself, of your inner self.
Wow, that's really cool.
Thank you.
And something else I want to bring to your attention, Chris, is you ever be upset and just try smiling?
Like, I should probably try that.
Or like the people talk about power postures, like by standing tall with your chest out with a big smile, like it can actually change the way that you feel. So,
that one I've heard about, yes.
Right. So it could work. It seems as though it could work in either direction. It could also work just by changing the words that you're using. It could also work in the opposite direction as well. Jody and I were one of the other people we kind of connected on was Neville Goddard. He was a early 1900s a mystic who taught about law of attraction, things of that nature, law of assumption. And one of the laws he teaches is the law of reversibility. Right. So so you could want a thing, right? And by having the emotions of already having the thing brings the thing, right? And I think it works in this conversation as well with language. By starting to use different words could also change the way that you're feeling at the same time. So I think it could work in either direction.
So two books that come to mind about Neville Goddard. One is Feeling is a Secret, is the title of one of his books. The other one is The Power of Awareness. And so, Chris, the language is the awareness piece. The feeling is the secret piece that changes your environment, that changes you. Really changes you first, and then your environment follows.
So it brings up one last question I had on this. We always usually hear the word self-talk in relation to the adjective negative. Is there a place and a function and a tool such as positive self-talk?
That's what prayer and affirmations are. There's a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it's about self-talk, and it's about switching your own self-talk. So that's what I think. That's what I think of when I think of prayer, when I think of affirmations, that we're being very conscious with our language. During that, we set aside a time period where we're very conscious of our language to the universe or God or whatever you want to call your higher being. So, and then some, throughout your day, having a mantra. Some people, talk about having a mantra that you just kind of repeat as you walk down the street and throughout your day. Just being very conscious with that. So that is positive. That to me, that's what I think of when I think of positive self-talk.
So in keeping with the Saturday Night Live references that we had in a previous episode, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Stuart Smalley for the win.
Smalley, yeah, right. Exactly. So that character was meant to make fun of. At the time, people were starting to get into affirmations, and he was a therapist. I think he was a therapist, or maybe he was just.
No, he was just. I think it was just him.
Just a regular guy.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what made it funny too. And he would look into the mirror and say those things. But that's what he's saying is that's what we're talking about. That's positive self-talk.
So here's the really powerful conversation as to what we're talking about, Chris, the difference between language and feeling. Individuals, and I'll speak for myself, when I was in a state of affirming, I am good, I am wonderful, I am worthy, and as you can feel, there's a sense of disconnect between my language and the feeling within myself with this language. And so changing the affirmation to a decree. I decree something, and it is. It's the it's the authority in which you speak and feel the language coming through you, your language coming through you. And so when you name something, you have power over it.
Interesting. You've mentioned that disconnect before, and I guess it's the idea that you're saying things about yourself, but again, from that observer role, and you're also not believing what you're saying. But you're saying when you declare it, I am, this is, and things like that, you've taken that power and you're not leaving wiggle room for you to be lying. You're making a statement of fact.
Yes.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, this has been a great discussion on self-talk. So the takeaways here is self-talk is the dialogue that you have going on in your head, not even just consciously, but subconsciously. And while we do think of self-talk as generally being negative, it is really the affirmations, the prayers, as Bryan mentioned, that are the positive self-talk. And as Jody mentioned, with doing the I am statements, the declaring it, those are all examples of positive self-talk that move you in the direction you want to be going. Great discussion as always, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Chris.
All right, guys, have a great day.